Welcome to my Emerging Technology 2 presentation. The focus of this presentation is going to be on blended learning, especially with using Google Classroom. So first I wanted to take a look at what is blended learning, what is the definition, because I think there are a lot of different ideas floating out there. So according to the 2017 Horizon Report, blended learning is an umbrella term that encompasses any combination of traditional face-to-face teaching with modes of technology facilitated instruction. So the way I look at this is that there can be some technology aspects, there can be some traditional aspects, but just some way the technology is helping to facilitate the instruction. It's not just being used as a tool, but it's helping to facilitate. According to the Blended Learning Universe, blended learning is any formal education program in which a student learns, at least in part, through online learning, with some element of student control over time, place, path, and/or pace. So what I understand about blended learning from this definition is that, again, there is some part of technology that is kind of controlling the learning, is where the learning is housed, and the student then has some control over when they do that learning, where they do that learning, how fast it takes them, how long it takes them. So I'm going to be looking at Google Classroom. Now, I know Google Classroom may not seem like the most or the newest technology that's out there, because it is something that I know has come up a lot in our classes and has been used by a lot of teachers, but I'm looking at it from an elementary perspective, and it is starting to trickle down into the elementary buildings, but it's still pretty new there. And so as a 5th grade teacher in an elementary building, I wanted to look at how Google Classroom could be used to help facilitate a blended learning environment for our students. So if I take you to my Google Classroom site, first of all, for those that don't know what Google Classroom is, it is a very basic, I would say, learning management system. You can house assignments, you can grade assignments, you can put up curriculum, you can do pretty much everything from the site. Again, it's very basic, but through using the other Google apps, then it becomes very dynamic, and depending on how you use it. So, as you can see, I have 3 different classes. I have 3 different math classes that I teach, and all 3 classes use Google Classroom. The way that my classroom is run is there are some aspects where they use the computers mostly just to turn in assignments, but in a way I would consider my classroom to be blended, as in the students do have some control over what they do when they do it. There is a final due date, obviously, but they are not all working on the same thing at the same time. And they also, as you can see, this first assignment on here is a video through Edpuzzle, as I am incorporating a flipped classroom into my class as well. And I think this is where the Google Classroom has really helped me to have that blended learning environment with the flipped classroom. So it keeps track of the assignment, that and Edpuzzle is nice and that it links up with Google Classroom. But as you can see, as of this moment, because this assignment isn't technically due until tomorrow, 6 students have done this assignment and 9 have not. So again, they're taking this learning on. They're doing it when they have time. They're doing it where they have time. Some students will choose to wait till intervention, which we have first thing in the morning, and do it then. Some will do it at home. Some of them did it at school. And it's just really convenient, especially as a teacher, where I can go in and I can see who's done it, who hasn't, and if this is a graded assignment, I would just type in whatever the points are and I would grade it. So it's keeping track of that, but it's giving the students the ability to keep track of it on their own. There are lots of other things that I do within this as well, but one of the great things, and one of the things that I think really helps this to be a tool for blended learning environments, is that you do not have to assign every assignment to every student. As you can see, looking at this assignment, it is only assigned to one student. Now, the reason for this is that the student is going to be absent tomorrow, and so I went ahead and assigned the assignments that we were doing to her so that she could work on them and not miss them, because she is going to be out of town. But you could do this for groups. You can do it so that it's different students have different projects that they're working on. That's all still housed right in Google Classroom, which helps students to take that ownership of their learning and kind of choose and be creative with the learning that they are doing. Another great thing about Google Classroom is that it can be accessed from anywhere. I have students that go ahead and do assignments that are on that they have all week to do. Instead of waiting for time to do it in class, they work on it at home, because that's how they're choosing to use their time and manage their time. So it's not just an in-class assignment. They are taking it upon themselves to work on it at home. Because they are able to get on anywhere and they are able to get on at home, it also keeps the learning process going throughout the day, not just in my class. And this may not necessarily fall under blended learning, but I think it is a great communication tool. I know, teaching math for 6 years now, there are often lots of questions and lots of concerns, and by using Google Classroom, that communication is open. And now I tell my students that just because they comment on here does not mean I'm going to respond right away. But the first few weeks when we were starting with everything, I was on constantly, and I do try to check at least a couple times a night. I did not have any tonight on this class, but in one of my other classes, if I remember which one it was, not that one, sorry, I had a student who was having technical difficulties with the video, so he was able to get on, he was able to tell, and I was still at school, and I was on Google Classroom grading stuff, so I got the message right away. But, so I was able to respond to him, and then as you see, he responded back, and we had a conversation. Sometimes it can go on for a while. I had a student the other day asking a question about, why are we learning this? Why can't we do it this way? And so I was able to go back and really explain, to have that one-on-one communication. So it keeps the learning an ongoing process through the videos and through the assignments. And it helps that they can just comment right on the particular assignment that they are having problems with. Because if I go back to this class, I have students that are pulled 2 days a week on for tag or advanced math, and so they are still responsible a lot of the times for what I do in class, but they are not in class for it. And we started something new with Math Facts because I found that my students were really struggling, and I hadn't had a chance to talk to them. And so, as you see, the one student made a public a class comment where everybody could see it, but this student chose to go in and write a private conversation. And again, this is not something that I answered on here, but I did talk to her the next day about it because I saw that she was having problems with it, and I walked her through how to do it. But I can know, and if it was something that I needed to respond to right away, I could have responded, and I have in the past with a student when she's absent or misses the class. So it keeps the learner engaged, and it also helps me to stay connected with them throughout the day when they're in other classes or when they're at home or if they've been sick or missed a day. I also want to talk about with this blended learning experience that there are many different ways in which a blended learning environment may look. And I know that there's definitely more with Google Classroom that I could do to make it more blended, as I do have a lot of assignments. It's a portal for their math on the spot video that they have to watch, their problem of the day. But it does keep it somewhat interactive and it keeps it moving. They're going to different websites. They're going and doing different activities where they're inserting pictures. And again, it is still just a mode of, this is what I have to do, this is what I have to get done. It's just different than looking at a piece of paper. But with these assignments, they have, yes, there are some things that they have daily, but they still have that choice of when they're going to do it. We have an hour and a half long class period, and I try to do 20 minutes of a mini lesson based off of the video that they watched the night before. And then we have, I meet with groups, and while I'm in those groups, students have all these assignments that they can choose from. Some of them are week-long assignments, some of them are daily assignments, but they get to choose when they do what they want to do and how they want to do it. Another aspect that really helps with the blended learning is there's a collaborative. I've not done a lot with that, as sometimes that takes a lot of teaching, especially with the 5th graders, on how to appropriately do that on the computer. So their collaboration is still, because we are in the classroom doing a lot of this, their collaboration is face-to-face more than on the computer. But there are times where they'll comment something and another student will answer, and so that helps with the collaboration part of the blended learning environment. Again, there are a lot more things that you can do with Google Classroom, and what I do with it is just a very small part of that blended learning definition, but it can definitely be used as a tool for blended learning, which is why I chose to kind of take a closer look at it for everyone out there that's watching, just to look at how, Google Classroom is this great resource, but it's not just a tool necessarily. It can definitely be used to help incorporate a blended learning environment into the classroom.